All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Monday, March 24th. We have an 8-game NBA slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'll give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye down on the pinned comment of this video. That'll take you to all of my final plays, so I'm actually rolling with myself. If that does interest you, absolutely free down in the pinned comment. All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I tell you guys I'm a dummy all the time. They don't suck. They've just been sucking. Get them down to -3, 4 more juice than Jose Canseco in his prime. Tell me you're new without telling me you're new. So don't go jumping down my throat in the comments, right? If you want to fade me, or if you do want to ride me, this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, right? And remember, more chins, more wins. So the last time you guys saw me was Saturday, and we had a nice little 2-0 night. Now, we had to sweat them out. Austin Reeves over 4.5 assists. He cashes with 5 assists. And then Brandon Podziemski here over 3.5 assists. He cashes with 4 assists. So, yes, they were definitely the farthest thing from sweat-free, but still a 2-0 night. So, we shall take it. One more cha-ching to bring those vibes over to today. We didn't have a ride of the day, so definitely go ahead and get those hashtag ride of the days down in the comments. If you guys don't know what it is, you just use the hashtag ride of the day down in the comments. Give me your favorite play of the day. I jump on board with one person's play each and every day, and I give you a shout out in the next video, win or loss. I also shout you out over on my Twitter/X, which will be popping up right in the bottom left of your screen throughout the show, and you get a shout out over on the Guy Boston Sports site with the final plays. If you win, we continue to ride with you, and hopefully you can develop a little bit of a streak here. If you do lose, you still get the shout out, but we got to talk about it, right? We drop the womp womp from the soundboard. So get those hashtag ride of the days down in the comments. And yeah, what do you say we go ahead and dive into this slate? Make sure you guys are hitting that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. Let's start it off here with Washington taking on Toronto. Washington on the back-to-back, which, I mean, they're playing, Toronto. It's not like it's this big worry of mine. They are on the road, though, and if we know anything about Washington, they do struggle a little bit on the road, but they should be getting Jakob Poeltl back in this one, and Emmanuel quickly as well, so still no Ingram, still no Grady Dick, and Chris Boucher is questionable here, so I do think that, they get a little bit of an add to the lineup. When we know anything about this Washington team, they they find themselves super struggling, whatever I'm trying to say. They struggle a lot against big men down low, right? So Jakob Poeltl being an add from missing yesterday and time to coming back today, obviously is a big add here. I would say this is most likely a Toronto spot for me. Last time these two teams played was at the beginning of this month, or actually just a couple of weeks ago, and they won by 15 points. They did play, a couple days before that, and Washington beat them by 1. So yes, you can make that argument, but overall, I think this is a spot for Toronto. They played 3 times this year. Toronto has covered and won 2 of the 3. So give me Toronto plus the 1. You can get them for decent odds right now, even on the money line. I do think that could be a look as well. Plus 106 is the best right now. In terms of what we have from a total, I don't think either one of these defenses plays the best, the best defense. Right now, we have the 28th ranked defensive efficiency in Washington, 19th for Toronto, but that really isn't, I don't trust that 19th all that much, to be honest, because they've had some times during the year where they play superb defense that have kind of skewed the numbers. Recently, they've been a bottom 5 team defense, so yeah, I don't know where the points come from either squad, but I can't trust the defense. I'm going to lean slightly towards the over, but it's most likely going to be something that I would consider like a Toronto team total over on. You have RJ Barrett playing, you have Scotty Barnes playing, you have Jakob Poeltl playing. They should be able to score in the paint almost at ease, right? Even quickly. So I like Toronto's team total over more than I do considering, Washington to have to hold, their own water and whatnot. From a player prop perspective, I mentioned him a couple times. I don't mind Jakob Poeltl. I will say he's been playing really well, but you got to factor in the fact that there has been a few injuries out there. In his last 6 games here, he's been playing some really good basketball, but again, there's been plenty of injuries, right? So he's averaging 14.3 points per game over his last 6. Actually, I think it might be a little bit higher than that. I might have that wrong. But 16, 17, 21, 9, 19, and 18. Right now, for plus money, his number is 13.5 for points. You can also get 12.5s for the normal number out there. I like both of those, but again, you got to factor in some of those games have been without RJ Barrett or quickly and that type of thing. Some of those guys may obviously take some shots from him, but there's no denying that centers can do work against this Washington team. So I'd consider Jakob Poeltl to some degree here. Wouldn't be surprised if that is a final play. Make sure to keep an eye on them. Next up, Orlando taking on the Lakers. Start with the injury report here. LeBron James listed as probable, and Rui Hachimura listed as questionable. Cole Anthony listed as questionable on the Orlando side of things. Lakers have dropped 2 straight games. Really bad one to Milwaukee, right? But again, they've been kind of injured. And then to Chicago, they got beat by, like, what was it, 31, 32, something like that. Orlando coming off a win, albeit against Washington, so I don't want to sit here and throw a victory parade for them. They have been shooting a ton of mid-range. Over the last 10 games, they are the 5th highest frequency in terms of mid-range jump shots. The Lakers, surprisingly, one of the best teams in the league at defending the mid-range recently, so it's almost like their number one scoring go-to is blocked by the Lakers. The Lakers, on the other hand, have definitely become, like we've been saying, a three-point shooting team, but Orlando, though they've had their ups and downs, a very good perimeter defense. I see this as a back-and-forth game, and I've already seen the number drop from 4.5 to 3.5. I'd say with Orlando at home, it gives them a little bit of edge here. Do I think that they win the game? Well, potentially. I wouldn't put it past this situation, but I do think 4.5 points could come in handy. So I'm going to lean towards the underdog here, plus the 4.5. By doing so, I would say that I like a Lakers team total under. I think Orlando's defense is the thing that shines here. The one concern is that, LeBron James, obviously, being injured and all that. I know he played like 30-something minutes last game against the Bulls. Didn't really look like it made that big of a difference. Against Milwaukee, he didn't play, but neither did Bronny played. He had his career high points, but LeBron didn't, and, Luka didn't play. So you could factor these things in being like, well, if they're healthy, they're a way better team. They went on that run a while back before LeBron getting banged up. I get that. I think I would just say I'm trusting the Orlando defense, and honestly, LeBron coming back in the lineup, it's not like their offense looked tremendous last time out, right? And they do still have some injuries that they're dealing with. So, yeah, I don't know if I love the full game under, because if I would just put it like this: if Orlando's defense doesn't do their job, and this game's going to go over anyways, and we would probably lose the Lakers team total anyways. So I'm going to trust the one thing that I do think comes through today, and it's that. In terms of, if you were to ask me like what my confidence level is on that, it's right around probably like a 55 type of out of 100. You know what I mean? It's not, I'm not sitting here saying that is the move. I'd probably even rather Orlando plus the 4.5 if that's the case. But like I said, it does worry me that the Lakers getting healthy, and we saw a healthy Lakers team move up to second place in the West and look really good. So there are some things that I'm, got some caution lights blinking in front of me here. No major player props as of right now. If we add anything in, I'll give a little blurb on the final plays there if we do ultimately end up adding anything in. But guys, before we do move on with the rest of the games here, I want to talk to you about Underdog. If you guys have not checked out Underdog yet, it is super fun, super easy to use. I love the interface, whether you're on your computer, whether you're on your phone. It is absolutely awesome. And they're offering a Kevin Durant 0.5 points squared today. You can add that into your entry. You also get up to $1,000 in a deposit bonus when signing up. Really great app if you have not tried it yet. It's available in a ton of states. Again, if you haven't tried it, you are missing out. It's super simple. You can place a lineup within like seconds and have some more action in on the game. So go ahead and check it out. Take advantage of this Durant one. What I love they have a built-in feature called Streaks, which is essentially the ladder challenge, which is really cool. Thinking about making some content around that as well, because again, it's a really cool feature that they are doing. So go check out Underdog, guys. Perfect for, basketball right now. Obviously hockey, you got NCAA. Baseball's right around the corner. Go check out Underdog, guys. That link will be down in the description as well as the pinned comment, or you can sign up using code GUYBOSTON. Let's jump back into the rest of the games here. All right, next up, Indiana taking on Minnesota. Now, this is totally one of those games that you can make the argument for either team, right? Like, there are paths to get there. We saw a really good game between these two just, a week ago. Went to overtime. It was a 132-130 win for Minnesota. Minnesota, that was the game in which Halliburton didn't play, right? We had a bunch of guys injured. Minnesota was 10.5-point dogs. They ended up losing the game outright. I will say, and by the way, Anthony Davis listed as questionable in this one, as is Benedict Mathurin on the other side. If Anthony Davis doesn't play, I do think this is a good spot for Indiana. There's a lot, like I said, that you can make a case for on both sides. Indiana should be able to score in the isolation. In fact, we can show you better than telling you here. Should be able to score in the isolation. Not the best defense on that side for Minnesota. But Minnesota, honestly, if they do get their pick and roll going, opposite. Indiana should be able to score in the pick and roll. Minnesota, if they get their isolation going, which obviously they'll run sometimes, they run a decent amount, don't score the best, but really looks like Indiana, does struggle in that lane. Both teams kind of have a good angle there of attack, but it's not like Minnesota looks like they're the best scoring team in isolation, whereas Indiana is actually a very good pick and roll team, right? So that definitely gives them a leg up on the competition. Pull-up jumpers could be a weakness for Indiana, but catch and shoot for both teams, very, very strong. But the reason I think this is a very good game that you can make an argument for either side and whatnot is you can even see here from the frequency spot of our dashboard. And by the way, we'll show you how to get access to this dashboard a little later on in the video, but Indiana clearly shooting in the paint the most, right? 7th in terms of frequency, and then Minnesota corner 3 and above the break 3, obviously their biggest frequency spots as well. Well, you come over here and it's like, okay, well, Minnesota pretty good at defending the paint, right? That matches up with that restricted area. Maybe it's tough for Indiana to score. Well, Minnesota likes to shoot the 3. Indiana not all that bad at stopping points from 3, right? So both teams shouldn't have the easiest of time scoring. I say that and it's like, well, they had a 132 to 130 game last time they played. I get it, but I do think this is a back and forth game, and Anthony Edwards being questionable, I think he's the difference maker. So I'm going to pin it on him. If Anthony Edwards does get the go, I think I like Minnesota as an underdog here. If he doesn't, I honestly think this could be a viable final play of Indiana. You have both teams playing good basketball. Minnesota 8-2 in their last 10 games. One of those losses was to Indiana, and Indiana has won 4 straight games. They've won 6 of their last 7. They are not covering games. They're just 1-9 over their last 10 games in terms of covering. So keep that in mind. But they have laid some big-ish numbers. Like they have a 13 point in there against Philadelphia, 13.5 against Brooklyn, and 8 against Brooklyn, 10.5 against Dallas. So I do get that, but like this is the smallest points that they've been favorited by in that 10-game sample size, but it's still kind of worth noting, you know what I mean? Whereas Minnesota 6-4 against the number in their last 10. So yeah, again, it kind of hinges on Anthony Edwards. If he's a good to go, if he's a go, or if he's good to go, and mix the two there. I am Italian, believe it or not. I would say Minnesota's probably my spot here. They should be able to, score in the paint as well, which is not exactly something that they do from a crazy amount, but that is where the Indiana defense kind of struggles, right? They have on the season. They've gotten a little bit better at it as of late, but Minnesota, I would say, has that opportunity. Whereas even if Indiana, I had talked about them scoring in the paint and, Minnesota's pretty good at stopping it. If Indiana's like, okay, well, we'll shoot the 3 ball then, well, Minnesota's pretty good at defending that damn perimeter. You know what I mean? So I think that defense gives them a little bit of an edge there. I also don't mind an under. It's kind of crazy, I know, because the last time they played, I already talked about 132 to 130. Like, I do get that. There was, I think it was like 28 points in overtime, though. So you're getting a little bit closer to this number. Obviously there, like it still went over by, I think, probably like 4 or 5, if my math is correct. But still, I think that 231 number is just a little too high in this spot, especially because I'm kind of believing in the idea of, well, Indiana likes to score inside, Minnesota should defend it well. Minnesota likes to score from the perimeter, Indiana should defend it well. The 2 main spots should be defended fairly well. Player props. Now, it's going to obviously really depend on what we have from that Anthony Edwards situation, but I don't mind Rudy Gobert. I already kind of mentioned if Minnesota needs to score inside, that might be a good look. Did he burn us last time out? Yes, he did, okay? I also don't mind Jaden McDaniels, again, over 7.5 rebounds plus assists. We've been going back to Jaden McDaniels plenty, and now we have a pretty decent line, I would say, at that 7.5 as it's gone down a little bit. So those are 2 spots that I would consider and look at least on the Minnesota side of things, but obviously there is some sort of, factor of, well, if Anthony Edwards plays, some of those 1 lines might change, and 2, our thoughts on those may change a little bit. So let's keep an eye on the injury report for this one for now. And like I mentioned, getting access to that dashboard, you're on the Guy Boston Sports site right now, which is in the pinned comment. Head over to the members area. I'm signed in, so if I click NBA dashboard, it will populate with the dashboard. All I have to do is open it. You can zoom in, you can print it out, you can make notes, anything. You get each and every game broken down and broken out in a visual format. We still have some feed issues here for back-to-back cover numbers, but that's not really the norm. It usually is pulled by this time. But yeah, each and every game you have green is good, red is bad. You get multiple different sites pulled into one consolidated dashboard, saving you time. I use this myself, and I brought it to you guys. So yeah, this is a really, really cool tool. A lot of work goes into it. That's why we monetize it. If you aren't signed in, you will see something that says, hey, well, you got to sign in. We do have a couple membership options available right now, and come 3 days from now, you only have 3 more days really for this little secret deal that I've been telling you guys about, but the MLB dashboard's available once the season rolls out $4.99 a month, right? Well, the all sports dashboard's the exact same price. This thing's going to bump up a couple bucks once the MLB season actually is underway. The all sports dashboard gets you access to all of our dashboards, and you're locked in at the price that you sign up at. So this is probably the move if you guys are interested in trying out the dashboard, and you're going to want to use it for the MLB dashboard and that type of thing as well. But the MLB dashboard is awesome. So head over to GuyBostonSports.com. Consider becoming a channel member. Real quick, I do want to clarify that is different than the channel membership on YouTube. We have the channel members, and then I guess the site members. It's a better way of putting it. The channel members get access to all of those members-only videos on the channel, but the dashboard is now moved over to GuyBostonSports.com. We get a few questions about that every day, so just wanted to make sure that was clear. Two separate memberships there. If you want the dashboard package is now on the website. All right, Brooklyn taking on Dallas. Obviously, when we talk about Dallas, there's a ton of injuries, and there still are a ton of injuries. Brooklyn, D'Angelo Russell, and Zaire Williams looking like they are questionable as well. So this is a big question mark game for me. I don't think that I want to kind of sit here and preach to you guys when I don't have a strong take on it myself. I think if we were to have to look at something, I would say, I guess, the home team, but ultimately, like, this is probably a spot in which it's probably the best just to stay away. Dallas is coming off a nice win against Detroit. I guess we can give them credit for that. And Brooklyn has lost 8 of their last 10 games. Last time these two teams played, Dallas won. That was back in February. Yes, they were still banged up then, but they had Luka and even, was it? No, was that last season now that I'm thinking about it? I think that might have been in 2024, so I don't think they've played this season, so we don't even have that to go off of. This is just a big question mark game, guys. With all the injuries, I would lean just home team, but you can make a case for Dallas easily. But again, there's just too many injuries. Dallas just does not seem like a team that I really want to put my bread on right now. Nor does Brooklyn, though. So give me the home team. In terms of a total, I guess, that seems like it's a fairly low number for two defenses that I'm not trusting at the moment. Brooklyn's defense steps up at times. Like, they've looked really good in the last few games, right? But at some point that dam's going to break. Like, they played good defense, Boston against Indiana. Like, they lost these games. The defense was there. I think everyone's going to be like, oh, well, that defense is going to continue. I don't know. They have guys in and out of the lineup. I don't fully trust it. I would lean towards an over, but honestly, don't take my word for it, right? In terms of what we have from a player prop, nothing that I would really try and convince anyone of here as well. And by the way, I know we'll get the comments like, why talk about it if you don't have anything? It is what it is. I mean, we want to talk about every single game, but I can't guarantee that I'm going to have a strong or hot take on every single game, right? One spot that I don't mind here would be Kai Jones over 6.5 rebounds. I like the spot here against Nick Claxton. Not that he's, a guy that's going to let him get a bunch of rebounds, but I do see Brooklyn being a team that, is going to try and take it inside against this Dallas team. They've been shooting a lot of threes, but Dallas's defense, if you're still going to give them one part of a credit, it's that they're better on the perimeter, right? So if they take it inside, Brooklyn does, and miss some shots, then the center should be the one that gets, I think he's going to have more rebound opportunities is the way that I would put it. So that's something that I would consider, but how many times am I going to say this is a question mark game? Like, we do have a decent, I think this is a game slate with some value on it, especially from the game perspective, like no major spreads. This and the Toronto and Washington, but Toronto and Washington, we even had some spots in, right? This is probably my least favorite game. So just being honest with you guys. All right, New Orleans taking on Philadelphia. Look at the dashboard in this one on the left here. These are like team rankings and where they rank, right? How much red do we see? That is just crazy. These teams are just, neither one of them are all that great right now. Obviously, Philadelphia has been super banged up, and they still are. They still are injured right now. Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, Kelly Oubre, Andre Drummond, Joel Embiid. Like, yes, we've seen it. Zion's questionable in this one, as is Yves Missy. So we'll keep an eye on those. If those guys play, I would say if Zion plays, I don't mind New Orleans. Like, they should be able to score in the paint against this Philadelphia team. Zion should have a decent game. McCollum should be able to score from outside as well. So I like this spot for New Orleans, but 7 does worry me a little bit, right? Like, that is a fairly big number. If you applied that spread to New Orleans' last 10 games, they'd be 1-9 against that number. So yeah, have all their games been, super injured teams like Philadelphia and all that? No, I'm not trying to say that. Like, they've played Minnesota a couple times. They played Detroit a couple times. Memphis, Houston. Like, they've played better teams in this. But still, that number hanging there seems a little, I don't know, a little sketchy to me. I wouldn't, I should say, be opposed to maybe pivoting towards New Orleans team total over. You'd have to get at it like 117.5, which does seem a little bit high. But, if you look at Philadelphia's recent games, I'll go through their last 10 from most recent to least recent. Atlanta 132, and these are points allowed. San Antonio 128, OKC 133, Houston 144, Dallas 125, Indiana 112. Okay, now there's one that went under, right? But then you go Toronto 118, 132 to Atlanta again, 122 to Utah, 123 to Boston. So Philly's defense, yikes. And we saw this matchup back in mid-January, and New Orleans did score 123 points. So maybe a peek at their team total over. I worry about their pace to some degree, but man, oh man, does Philadelphia's transition defense stink. They're allowing their opponents to shoot over 55% this season in transition. So if New Orleans can run in transition, they should be able to score there. So maybe a team total overlook there is probably, at least a little bit better than having to risk the idea of, them winning by 8 points, I guess, in this spot. Quentin Grimes, also a guy, I know that I've kind of looked at him a few different times. I don't mind him. I also don't mind Justin Edwards over 22.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. I think that they're just decent matchups for these guys, and if I do envision this to somewhat be a transition type game, I think that could work as well. So yeah, I like Quentin Grimes in multiple ways. If you're looking at his points, I also like his assists. He's been getting a decent amount of potential assists. Right now his line's at 4.5, and we've seen plenty of games with him, having 9 to 10 potential assists, which I like. The problem is who's he passing to score these things, right? So kind of a light player prop. Like I said, CJ McCollum and Zion, viable options. I do think that their lines are going to be a little bumped up, or at least a little, asking for a lot, I should say. But on the Sixers side, Grimes and Edwards could be potential looks here. All right, we got 3 more games to jump into. If you made it this far into the video, go ahead and comment 21. You made it past the 21-minute mark. Let me know who you think of when you think of number 21 in the NBA. It doesn't have to be the best 21 of all time. We've done this before, and I think there's some really cool names that come out. Though he was number 5 with the Celtics, my favorite team, when I think 21, I do picture that T-Wolves Kevin Garnett jersey, the one with their old school jersey, or I would say not old school, but early 2000s jersey. It's really, really cool jersey. I picture that 21. So I think that's my answer. But there's a decent amount of 21s out there, right? You got Tim Duncan. There's Tim Duncan. There's a lot of 21. So who do you think of when you think of number 21 in the NBA? Again, doesn't have to be the best 21 of all time. You could say some random name no one else knows, but if that's who you think of, that's who you think of, right? So let me know down in the comments, and comment 21 at the same time as doing it. But let's jump into this one. We have Denver taking on Chicago. Obviously, I'm assuming Jokic is a no-go based on what we have from a spread here. He is listed as questionable, but with a doubtful tag, so probably not playing here. So that lineup's going to be Murray, Brown, Porter, Gordon, and DeAndre Jordan, starting in the center spot there for him. Lonzo Ball looks like he's still out for Chicago, as is Trey Jones. Chicago coming off of that win we talked about against the Lakers, right? They smoked them, and they were on a 5 or 6 game road trip, and they did okay, 7-3 over the last 10 games. They won, I want to say it was 5 of the 7 road games that were in during that 10-game sample size were road games. They won them. Denver, obviously, also coming off of a long road trip here. I guess Chicago's still on a road trip. I feel like I didn't word that correctly. Denver coming off of the road trip. But they've been up and down. But obviously, this team's so much different without Jokic, right? Now, 4 points isn't asking for a whole hell of a lot. But what have I said about the Chicago team recently? It's like, if their 3-ball is going, they can have some success, and I don't really see why they wouldn't be able to have success around the perimeter against this Denver team who really does struggle. Now, what you could say is, well, Denver likes to score inside, and Chicago stinks at that, but Denver lost their superpower of scoring inside in Jokic, right? So you still might see some Aaron Gordon action and stuff like that, I would say. But I think that, if you're going to say, hey, what's the best way, ideal way for Chicago to score? They'd say, okay, shooting from 3, right? What's the ideal way for Denver scoring? We'll take it inside. If you lose Jokic, you're going to struggle in that category overall. So I think Chicago has a chance to make their shots today. I'm going to lean towards them plus the 4 points. I'm going to sound the psycho alert alarm because I do think that there are some really good angles to get to Denver. Just throw in the fact that, I think that they should be the team that has the easier way of scoring. If Chicago's not hitting their threes, they're toast, right? But Denver just overall, this defense is their offense really has to play well to keep up with a fast-paced Chicago team, and just rolling the dice that Chicago may be able to score. Like, Denver's going to have to run with them and be able to complete and convert their shots as well. So I don't think it's all that crazy to like Chicago, a team that's playing pretty well right now in the same setting, kind of on the road right now. Obviously, injuries being a little bit different, but we did see Chicago win this season when they played 129 to 120 or 121. Chicago was like a 10-point dog, and they won that one. That was with Jokic. Jokic had a really, I think he had a triple-double in that game, so he played really, really well, but we saw Vucevic have a very good game. LaVine, though, is the big name. He had a really good game, and so did Lonzo Ball. Obviously, no LaVine is left, and Lonzo Ball's out, so some guys that stepped up in that spot, they're not there to give you those points. So keep that in mind. But still, that's how I'm looking at this one. I kind of mentioned it though. No Jokic, who's going to score inside? Aaron Gordon over in points, maybe points, rebounds, and assists as well could be one that I look at. But points being kind of the centerpiece here to me for him. Right now his line is at 17.5, but you're getting plus money. I just don't mind it, especially in this type of, in this type of matchup. Now, he has 4 games this year without Jokic. Last game, didn't do all that tremendous. He shot the ball only 9 times, shot 55% from the field, but had 13 points. We needed a few more. In games prior to that, and these are all recent, like without Jokic, 38, 26, 23. So this seems like it should be a little bit better of a spot here, given the matchup overall. Now, we didn't talk about the total yet. I would say an over. Neither one of these defenses is all that great. I already talked about Chicago may be able to hit their shots, and we'll see some transition in this one, I would assume, especially without Jokic. So that number's way up there, 237, but I think for good reason. I would probably actually say Gordon, the spread, and then the total if I were to prioritize those. So just kind of make that clear. Phoenix taking on Milwaukee. No Damian Lillard here. Still no Bobby Portis. And then we have Gary Trent and Giannis Antetokounmpo listed as questionable. So we want to keep an eye on the injury report as this one progresses, because we know Dame, right? But Giannis, that's obviously a big factor. His team's coming off of 2 straight wins, Lakers and the Kings. And then Phoenix has actually looked pretty good. 4 of their last 5 games and 3 straight games they've won. But the impressive one would be Cleveland, right? 8.5-point dogs. They were at home, but they're home now. They're definitely a better home team than road team. They end up winning that game outright, and kind of good for them, right? They're fairly healthy here. I mean, Nick Richards listed as probable. Plumlee's probable. Obviously, if those guys play, that's their big man right there. Bradley Beal is out, but he's kind of been out for a little while, so I'm not all that, overly concerned with it. I would say that this game comes down to the mid-range. Both of these teams like to shoot from the mid-range. Now, we're missing Dame, who's going to make up a little bit of that for Milwaukee, but we have Devin Booker and Durant on the other side of things, right? Do I love the idea of Phoenix as favorites? No, I feel like every time we've touched them, we've touched them, they've burned us, right? Like, they leave us itching. And they've been in the do not bet graveyard before. Like, it's really, really tough to like them. But without Dame, I do think that this Milwaukee team is going to rely heavily on Giannis and I guess Kuz here. And I just don't think that that's going to be the best competition level with a wide open mid-range. Milwaukee's not that great at stopping it against 2 guys that can dominate that in Booker and Durant. And you throw in the fact that Milwaukee loves to isolate. Even without Dame, they still do with Giannis and whatnot. Phoenix very good at isolating. Milwaukee takes a ton of pull-up jumpers. Phoenix very good at defending that. Catch and shoot jumpers on the Phoenix side of things are a thing that they do a ton, and Milwaukee does not cover that well. So there's all of a sudden an opening for Phoenix, right? So I think that there are plenty of angles to make a case for Phoenix in this one, but I'll be honest, it worries me to take them with a minus number next to their name. Like, we've just gotten burned by them multiple, and as of you guys, multiple times, but they're not playing the worst of basketball right now. They're 10th in the West, I want to say, so they're a play-in team. Like, maybe they're trying to bump up. I don't know the situation down there off the top of my head, so maybe we'll have that for next time. But yeah, give me Phoenix minus the 3. I think that there's just more angles to be made. If Dame was playing, this would flip on its head. I'll tell you that right now. I think that this would be a Milwaukee spot, but Dame isn't playing, In terms of what we have from a total, I do think that, Milwaukee's defense has been playing really well. So has Phoenix's. I would say Phoenix should be able to score in this one, but ultimately, I think that, even that Cavs game, right? Like, their defense was the thing that stepped up for them. So I'm going to lean towards the under. Milwaukee's offensive efficiency obviously dips without Dame, and that's a big thing. I've said his name multiple times. You throw in the fact that Phoenix could be pretty good and is playing at a fairly slow pace. 225 seems just a couple points too high for me in this one. I would say Book and Durant could be decent looks as well. I think that they have good opportunities tonight, especially with that mid-range from points, but it depends on what those lines are. Those lines can get up there. All right, Sacramento taking on my Boston Celtics. Tons of injury, like both sides, super important injuries to note here. You have the Celtics on a back-to-back, so we'll keep that in mind. Sacramento coming off, we just talked about it, a loss to Milwaukee. Malik Monk, Sabonis, listed as questionable, not probable, not doubtful, right in the middle like we like it, in limbo, questionable. Then on the Boston side of things, Drew Holiday listed as questionable, Jaylen Brown questionable, Porzingis questionable, Tillman out. So, yes, we're going to want to keep an eye on these injuries just because it is a back-to-back for the Celtics. Brown didn't play yesterday. Holiday, so like we tons of DNPs yesterday, right? So Celtics being on a back-to-back late in the year, obviously they're probably going to be smart about this. It's not like they have the toughest of matchups here. You have Sacramento, who has looked decent at times, but also they've only won 3 of their last 10 games. So what are we saying, right? Boston with a 3.5-point spread. If they just play the majority of their guys, I like them in this spot. Back-to-backs this season. The Celtics haven't been too bad. I mean, they were cruising earlier in the year. They're dipped down to a 45.5% cover rate, but it's not like Sacramento's that tremendous, one at home or with a rest advantage. The Celtics being a team that fills it up from outside kind of fits this defense perfectly, right? So I do think this is a good spot for the Celts. Throw in the fact that Sacramento beat them last time they played, and that was this year. Maybe there's a little bit of a burning, like, hey, let's get these guys back, right? So, and that was in Boston, if I'm not mistaken. So, give me the Celtics minus the points here. It's not a biased play. It's another one of those spots where I'm like, well, if you can get the Celtics, at a number like this, even if Brown doesn't play and Tatum does or Porzingis does, like, if you get the majority of the starters playing, it's still a decent spot for them. You know what I mean? In terms of a total, I don't mind a Celtics team total over. I worry that Sacramento is going to struggle to score, especially if Sabonis doesn't play. There goes their interior. The Celtics do really struggle in the mid-range, so that screams DeMar DeRozan yet again. So I think that might be something to consider overall. But yeah, Celtics team total over. I don't mind just an over in general, but again, I kind of worry a little bit about Sacramento holding their weight. Celtics on back-to-backs haven't been the best of, over teams either, so I think that take that with a grain of salt. Player prop-wise, I'd go Derek White and DeMar DeRozan. Threes for Derek White, points for Derek White, especially if we don't see Jaylen Brown. If we see everybody, I probably end up grabbing, like if Jaylen Brown and Tatum are playing, I probably gravitate towards White's threes. If Brown's listed as out again, or say Tatum's a late scratch, I probably just look at his points. But something revolving around Derek White, I think, is a good look. And then DeMar DeRozan for points, I think, should be a decent spot today. I don't mind his PRA, to be completely honest. I think that he's going to have a lot of opportunity overall. So yeah, I could get behind his PRA, but his points right now at 22.5. He has hit this in 5 of his last 10 games, which you're probably like, that's not all that's great, right? 4 times within those 10 games that he has not hit it in, he's landed on 22 points. One more point, just one foul shot, and he's hit that in 9 of his last 10. There's something to be said for that. You know what I mean? So you can even get over 21.5, I believe, on like DK right now for minus 120. So maybe that's look against the Celtics here. He's looked good too. So we have I don't think he played in the last one, but last 2 games against them, 28 and 24. So yeah, not bad there either. So keep an eye on the pinned comment, taking to the final plays, guys. That is what I'm actually rolling with myself, but appreciate you spending some time with me today. If you did enjoy the video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and we'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.